Have you ever looked at someone over 100 and asked, how are they still so full of life while others fade by 60? What if the answer wasn't genetics, wasn't money, and wasn't even healthcare? What if the truth was far more simple and you could start applying it today? In this video, backed by Yale research and real letters from seniors just like you, we reveal 3 shocking lessons from people over 100, and the most powerful one comes from someone who could be your neighbor. Have you ever whispered to yourself, will I still be me if I live to 100? Or maybe, just maybe, you've looked in the mirror and thought, I don't want to just exist. I want to matter even in my 90s. You're not alone. A study from the Journal of Aging Studies found that over 60% of seniors fear not death, but becoming invisible. Not being seen, not being heard, not being remembered. And that is where our story begins. A few months ago, we received a handwritten letter from Barbara, 82, from Ohio. She didn't begin with, Dear YouTube team. She began with, Dear fellow traveler, and she wrote, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of disappearing. My kids live far away. Some days I go 24 hours without hearing my name out loud. That line hit hard. Because when we think of aging, we often think of bad joints or poor memory. But Barbara feared something deeper, the loss of identity. She continued, That's why I watch your videos. Because when someone tells a story from the heart, I feel like I exist again. Barbara was right, and science proves it. In 2018, Yale researchers found that older adults with positive beliefs about aging lived 7.5 years longer on average. That's more than quitting smoking or reducing cholesterol. And those beliefs don't come from vitamins or prescriptions. They come from stories. Stories of survival, of joy, of connection. Stories like the ones you're about to hear. Meet Clifford, born in 1950. He once said, I've been retired for 38 years. Still robbing the government with my pension. He chuckled, but then he turned thoughtful. 101 is just a number. I still live for the day. I still pour myself a spot of whiskey now and then. But what touched us most was this. Sometimes I sit and reorganize the people I've loved in my mind, like hosting a dinner party for memories. That's not fading. That's intentional remembering. That's not confusion. That's wisdom. Then came Leonard. He's 91 from Maine. He sent us a short email, just 5 lines. But in those lines was a lifetime. I don't have a big life. I have a quiet one. I walk every morning with a neighbor. We don't say much. But he knows when my knees hurt more than usual. That's friendship after 80. No performance. Just presence. That last line, no performance. Just presence, was unforgettable. Because after 60, what matters is not what you do. It's how you show up. It's how you make someone feel seen even without saying a word. So if you've ever wondered, is there anything left for me after 60, after 80, even after 90? Let Barbara, Clifford, and Leonard answer you. Yes. There is dignity. There is humor. There is still time to be remembered. Because aging isn't the end of your story. It's a new chapter 1 that deserves to be heard. And sometimes just hearing one person say your name can remind you that you still exist. But if there's one truth all centenarians agree on, it's this. Even when the body slows down, your reason to wake up should never disappear. So, in part 2, we'll reveal the first shocking lesson from life after 100. Why the secret to aging well might simply be having something to look forward to every single week. You'll meet a woman who bakes bread not for sale, not for fame, but to feel alive. And a man who keeps a plant alive just to remind himself he still matters. It's heartwarming. It's practical. And it's a truth you can start living by tomorrow morning. Stay with us because part 2 is where the real transformation begins. I don't plan far ahead anymore, Barbara once wrote to us in a follow-up email, but I always make sure there's something on the calendar that makes me smile. For her, it's baking. Every Sunday, she bakes 2 loaves of bread, one for herself, one for her neighbor Sarah. She started this tradition 6 months after her husband passed away. Now, she says, the scent fills the house before the loneliness can. At first glance, it may sound small, but science says otherwise. A groundbreaking study from the Harvard Adult Development Project, the longest longitudinal study on aging, found this. People who consistently have something to look forward to, no matter how simple experience, improved emotional stability, stronger memory retention, and a significantly lower risk of depression. Yes, not just happiness, not just feel-good moments, but true cognitive and emotional protection. What the study didn't say explicitly, but what Barbara's story reveals is this. Aging well isn't about running marathons. It's about having a rhythm to your life that gently keeps you grounded. Take Frank, 95 years old, a quiet subscriber from Florida. He left a comment on one of our past videos about finding joy after 90. He wrote, "I used to play golf every week. I can't do that anymore. But now, every morning I water a plant on my windowsill. I say good morning to it. That little habit gives me rhythm. And that rhythm keeps me sane. There's something beautifully honest about that. A plant. A ritual. A moment. No one claps. No one even sees. But it's real. And it's his. This is exactly what senior wellness should look like. It's not about fads. Not about supplements. Not even about doctors. It's about elderly wisdom after 60 wisdom that is lived, not prescribed. And let's not forget Clifford, now 101. You met him in part 1. He doesn't do much on paper. But every Wednesday morning, he sits in the garden. Same chair. Same time. Why? Because the birds are quieter on Wednesdays. And I can hear my thoughts better. That's it. That's his thing. No pressure. No goal. No applause. Just a ritual that tells his body, I'm still here. Let's pause and reflect. What is your thing? What's something small, even quiet, that gives you a reason to get out of bed? If you feel comfortable, write it in the comments using this phrase. My reason to wake up is... You never know, your tiny habit might light up someone else's day. And now, let me introduce you to Miriam, 88, from Oregon. She didn't send an email. She mailed us a photo. In the picture, she's holding a piece of paper that simply says, Thursday Igala Bingo plus chocolate. That's it. That's her Thursday. She told us in the note, I live alone. No grandkids nearby. But every Thursday, I buy myself a piece of dark chocolate, walk 2 blocks to the senior center, and play bingo with whoever shows up. Some days I win. Most days I don't. But when I unwrap that chocolate, I feel like I'm 12 again. That feeling gets me through the week. This is healthy aging. Not vitamins. Not podcasts. 1 square of chocolate and a bingo card. That's senior mental health in motion. And what happens when you don't have something to look forward to? The same Harvard study showed that seniors without weekly anchors, no matter how small, were twice as likely to feel purposeless and 60% more likely to report symptoms of cognitive fog. That's not just emotion. That's brain function. That's your sense of self slipping. But you can stop the slipping. Not with a miracle cure, but with a tiny habit. Something to prepare for. Something to repeat. Something that tells your mind this is still your life. Here's the most touching line we've ever read, sent by Roger, 79, from New York. Every Monday morning, I call the same friend just to say one thing. We made it another week. We laugh. Then we hang up. We've done this for 14 years. No updates. No small talk. Just a simple acknowledgement of existence. We made it another week. That, dear friends, is retirement living done right. So what does this mean for you? Maybe you're not baking. Maybe you're not walking. Maybe you're not even talking much these days. But can you sip tea on the porch at the same time each afternoon? Smile at a neighbor through the window every morning? Watch a favorite show every Friday night and treat it like a ritual? These aren't just routines. They're lifelines. Aging gracefully doesn't require big moves. It requires quiet anchors, something to tether you to today and call you forward into tomorrow. And in part 3, we'll go even deeper into one of the greatest threats to longevity after 60. Not illness, but loneliness. You'll hear the story of Teresa, a woman who outlived both husbands and most of her friends, and still built a chosen family at 103. Her secret? It has nothing to do with luck. But before we go, we want to hear from you. What's your reason to wake up this week? Comment below with, "My reason to wake up is," whether it's chocolate, birdsong, crossword puzzles, or coffee with a neighbor, share it. Because maybe, just maybe, your comment will be the reason someone else wakes up tomorrow. And that, dear friends, is the kind of elderly wisdom after 60 this world needs more of. When we asked Clifford, 101 years old, what kept him going through decades of loss and change, he paused and smiled. I stopped waiting for people to knock on my door. I started knocking on theirs. That one sentence captures the essence of this lesson. Don't wait to be chosen. Create your family. Because after 60, something quietly begins to happen. The invitations slow down. The phone calls come less often. The dinner tables get quieter. Birthdays get lonelier. But that doesn't mean your life has to fade. Meet Teresa, 103, from San Diego. She was born in Czechoslovakia, lived through 2 wars, outlived 2 husbands, a brother, and most of her relatives. But every Friday afternoon, without fail, she drinks tea with a woman she met at a community bingo night back in 1979. She's not my blood, Teresa says, but she's been more of a sister than anyone in my family ever was. This is what we now call chosen family, a term that more and more seniors are embracing as traditional support networks change. And for good reason. According to the National Institute on Aging, older adults with regular, meaningful social interactions, even with non-relatives, experience 40% lower risk of cognitive decline, 50% reduction in depression symptoms, and significantly higher rates of independent living well into their 90s. Yet a CDC study revealed that 1 in 4 adults over 65 live completely alone, and many go entire days without any real conversation. It's not that people don't care. It's that they forget to reach out. And sometimes we forget to reach out too. Let's go back to Leonard, 91, from Maine, the man who walks every morning with his neighbor. He wrote to us, "After my wife passed, I waited for someone to invite me somewhere. For months. Then I realized I never invited anyone either. So one day he walked out the door. He joined a small walking group. He didn't talk the first few days. By week 2, someone asked his name. By week 4, they were having coffee. By month 3, he said this: "We're not just friends anymore. We're family. The kind that found each other late. That's the truth of aging well. The family you build in your 60s, 80s, or even 90s might be the most honest, mutual, and healing one you'll ever know." Have you ever formed a connection with someone who became your family, even though you weren't born into the same one? Leave a comment below with the phrase, "My chosen family is," and tell us their name, your bond, or simply how they make your life richer. Your story could give someone else hope or the courage to reach out. Now let's return to Teresa for a moment. We asked her, "What's kept you alive this long?" She didn't say diet. She didn't say exercise. She said this: "Every Saturday morning, my neighbor knocks on my door. We drink tea. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we don't say much. But we always meet." And then, with a twinkle in her eye, she added, "I only feel lonely when I forget to reach out first." Let that sink in. I only feel lonely when I forget to reach out first. That might be the most powerful sentence we've ever heard from someone over 100. Let's take a moment and speak plainly. You don't have to wait for a family reunion. You don't have to hope your kids call. You don't even need a dozen friends. You just need one person you can knock on. One person you can drink tea with. One person who knows when to show up, even if the words aren't there. Maybe it's a neighbor. Maybe it's a caregiver. Maybe it's someone in this very YouTube community. The reality is, elder care isn't just about physical support. It's about emotional presence. That's why senior movements, retirement communities, and multi-generational living aren't just trends. They're survival strategies for the soul. Even one study in the Journal of Gerontology found that seniors who live in socially interactive environments, not necessarily with family, report 40% higher life satisfaction and longer-term independence than those living alone. So maybe we need to redefine independent living, not as living alone, but as living connected. Wise advice for seniors: don't just wait for someone to invite you into their life. Be the one who invites. Be the one who remembers. Be the one who knocks. Because chances are the other person is waiting too. Let's make this personal. Think of one person in your life who's shown up for you, who made you feel seen when the rest of the world felt distant. Write their name down. Call them, or share about them in the comments. Because celebrating your chosen family might just be the best gift you give them and yourself. And if you don't have that person yet, let us help you start. Leave a comment saying, "I'm ready to build my chosen family," and we'll respond. This channel is more than content. It's community. And we're building it one story at a time. In part 4, we'll close with the final and perhaps most healing lesson: how reorganizing your memories can protect your mind, and why remembering the past isn't nostalgia, it's resilience. You'll meet Maria, 88, who makes an annual photo album not of her grandkids but of herself to remind her that her story matters, even if no one else remembers it. So stay tuned, because part 4 might just reconnect you to who you've always been. Sometimes I sit down and reorganize the people I've loved, like hosting a dinner party in my mind. Clifford 101. That quote isn't just poetic. It's profoundly scientific. Because what Clifford does, consciously revisiting his memories with intention, is more than a sweet habit of the elderly. It's one of the most powerful tools we have for mental health and longevity after 60. According to a study in the Journal of Psychological Aging, seniors who regularly reflect on positive autobiographical memories show 45% reduced risk of depression, improved sleep and immune function, slower progression of memory-related disorders. Why? Because memories anchor identity. They remind you that you've lived, that you've mattered, that even as your body slows down, your story still moves. Let us introduce you to Maria, 88, from Arizona. She sent us a voice note that began simply with this: I make a photo album every year. Not of grandkids, not of vacations, of me. Photos of me brushing my hair, eating soup, sitting in the sun. Because sometimes I forget that I existed until I see myself smiling. That line silenced our whole team. I forget that I existed until I see myself smiling. Maria doesn't make these albums for Instagram. She doesn't even show them to anyone. She makes them for herself. Because sometimes the only witness to your life is you. That is self-love. That is self-preservation. That is elderly wisdom after 60. Clifford, when asked how he remembers so well at 101, didn't mention diet or puzzles. He said this: I revisit the memories that made me laugh. I bring them back like old friends. He keeps them alive. And in doing so, they keep him alive. Harvard neuropsychologists confirm this. The act of intentional recollection, especially emotional or relational memories, reinforces neural connectivity and helps maintain a stable sense of self. Translation: remembering is healing, especially when you do it with love. So what does this look like in real life? Not therapy, not group workshops, not journals full of achievements. We're talking about simple, private rituals like making a memory box, keeping a joy journal with 1 sentence a day, watching old videos of yourself laughing, rereading birthday cards, telling a grandchild 1 story every week, or sitting by the window, smiling and whispering a name you still love. These are not acts of nostalgia. They are acts of spiritual survival. They say, I have lived, and I still remember how. Take a moment now and finish this sentence in the comments. A moment I never want to forget is, it could be silly, serious, private, public. What matters is that you say it. Because speaking your memory aloud makes it real. And maybe someone else will read it and say, I remember something like that too. That's how we connect through memory. Before we close, let us return to Maria. In the voice note, she ended with this: when I'm gone, people may not remember me, but I'll know I remember myself. And that's enough. And you know what? We will remember Maria. That's right. Because she taught us something simple. Self-remembrance, the final act of dignity. It's not selfish. It's simple. So what do Clifford, Teresa, Leonard, Barbara, Frank, and Maria all have in common? They wake up with something to look forward to. Show up for them, even if not by blood. Carry their memories like pleasure, not burden. And here's the wild part. None of them said, I wish I had more money. None of them said, I wish I had been famous. They all said, I'm glad I made meaning out of small things. I'm glad I reached out. I'm glad I remembered who I was. Aging isn't about disappearance. It's about deepening. It's not the final chapter. It's the richest one. So we leave you with a challenge. Every week, do one of the following. Revisit a favorite memory. Share a story with someone. Comment on someone else's story. Write down one moment that made you feel proud or human or alive. Because this not medications, not retirement brochures. This is the work of living well after 60. This is the gift of elderly living. Share in the comments. A moment I never want to forget is tag someone who needs to remember they matter. Forward this video to your chosen family. Save it for a day you need reminding. Because you are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are the keeper of stories. And we are honored you've shared them with us. Thank you for walking through this journey with us, from waking up with purpose, to building new family, to honoring your memories. This isn't goodbye. This is just the beginning of living deeply after 60.